Hey, let's have some fun. Here's the next episode of the Indefinite series, How to Have Fun in Destiny. I'm going to show you a build for Destiny PvP, which hopefully breathes some fresh air into your experience and invites you to try something unique, and maybe it'll help you branch out from the meta a bit. These builds balance competitiveness with weirdness because I like nestling right between trying and chilling, and I think you might like that too. For today's episode, we're returning to an old friend, which is still plenty of fun, Lion Rampants. We're going to float around like a Gundam and hipfire our Tex Mechanica cowpoke guns into all those little critters beneath us. Okay, before I keep gushing about this build, let's go live to the studio and I'll walk you through it. High resilience, always super important these days particularly, but also just on a Titan for your barricade. I think high recovery is important because you're going to be floating a lot up in the air, and so when you take damage, which is going to happen a lot because you're so exposed, you're going to want to dash out and then recover your health quickly so you can get back in the fight sooner. I don't really care for the high intellect personally because I just never use it. Ideally, I think you would go with glacier grenades and higher discipline, but because mine is so low, I've opted for the dusk field, just so I at least have some sort of grenade for zoning people off. Also, obviously 100 strength is super important for this build because of the dash melee. That's going to be integral to your evasiveness and mobility of this build, which is the whole point. So then for that reason, pair outreach with it, ideally 2 if you can. Other mods here are just, targeting. You can also go with last word and then just do 1 hand cannon targeting if you want. Loaders and dexterity mods. Unflinching mods, radiant light will help you get up to 100 strength. Hand cannon holster is nice for last word, but really not necessary. Powerful friends is great for mobility, especially when you're strafing back and forth with last word or DMT. You want to do stuff like that. This ideally would be much higher. And then high energy fire to pair with the powerful friends radiant light combination, not to mention the taking charge, because there's going to be plenty of orbs out there, particularly in control, which is where I like playing this build most. This is my DMT roll, nothing too fancy. Pretty much every time a DMT roll with Vorpal comes up at Zur, I just go buy that one and then delete the old one. But I think I've had this one for a while now. I just haven't really used it all that much because, I don't know, I got kind of sick of DMT after Stasis came out and that was all that people were using. I like to use a lightweight shoddy, this one's fine, and then Eager Edge because, of course, without ammo, you can still get the normal sword swipe, which is really nice for changing directions quickly. If you just wait for 4 seconds, then the no ammo Eager Edge swipe comes back, and you can do that while you're holding it out, and then just swap away from it and back to it, and you get it back again. Now, the most important thing to do with this build is figure out how to do that behemoth skate, which you're going to do by building up momentum, hitting slide, then sprint, and then Titan scroll wheel. I kind of f***ed it up that time, let's try it again. Basically, it's going to be once you get your momentum, slide, sprint key, Titan scroll wheel. There you go. You can also do it with strafe lift if you prefer, but that is going to be maybe just a little bit less good. Still nice, and with some practice it could be better, obviously, but catapult lift is always going to be the king of skating. Strafe lift I have had on recently just because I think it's a little bit better for kind of hovering in place for longer, and I think that's kind of what the main part of the fun of this build is. But I would do catapult if you just like skating more, because it's good and you still get to sit in air for a decent amount of time, just a little bit less. This is also better with a lightweight weapon because you can get going faster, so you have momentum. Although when I've been doing it with my DMT, which is not lightweight, obviously, it's still pretty much fine. So I don't know if that really has any effect on it, and I don't care to test it out. Maybe somebody else can. Fragment and aspect wise, I go Cryoclasm and Howl the Storm. Obviously you need Cryoclasm, that's integral to doing this whole skate thing, but Howl the Storm I never use because I'm always using my dash melee to get out of danger more quickly. The other fragments that I used are just to boost stats. They are nothing too fancy. You could probably choose better ones if you want and coordinate with them this or whatever you want to do. I just choose them for the stat boosts. Oh yeah, final thing, you can't really do this whole like slide thing off a ledge, because you need to press sprint again at the end of that, and so you're just not going to be able to press sprint in midair, so you can't get your momentum going. So if you like do this and then try to press sprint again and hit your scroll wheel jump, it's just not going to work. Okay, back to the other section, but before we go, look at that butt. Alright, so here's the playstyle I'd recommend for this build. Get up in the air, but stay close to a structure, so as you're firing, you can slowly move yourself back into cover as you're dueling. Or you could be more exposed, but you then need to have your stasis melee charged, so you can easily dash back into cover and stay safe. Your 100 resilience should allow you to tank a little bit more damage up there. As you're in the air, you need to be very precise with your aim and cognizant of your DMT's range level. This is actually a good moment to mention that you should keep an eye on Zur for when DMT is sold, because is you might see a roll like this, which I think is perfect for this build because it pushes out your range nicely, but also gives you a little bit more aerial forgiveness thanks to steady rounds, and I found myself wanting just like a little bit more forgiveness in air. Anyway, if you get injured enough, hopefully your 100 resilience keeps you alive, and then you can dash into cover or strafe into cover midair and get your health back. And then once you're down on the ground, if you need to make a quick escape, you can do your Titan stasis skate thing. And then if you kind of need to zone off enemies, your dusk field grenade will be perfect for this. It should really just be used to discourage people from pushing you, but it's not going to be a very lethal thing, obviously. Also, this is a small thing but worth mentioning. If you use auto melee like I do sometimes, you might want to take off Howl of the Storm so you don't accidentally use it when you're on the ground. It can be really nice if you're doing some sort of like fragment thing with Whisper of Rhyme, but all in all, I found myself personally messing up Howl of the Storm more often than not. Anyway, a little bit more about the playstyle. I think you have to be pretty careful when you hover so you're close to cover and you have your dash charged. I'd probably recommend trying to get some more melee energy from your fragments than I did in my build. I just truly did not care enough to look into it, and I'd rather just have the stat boosts because I like it when the stat numbers are big. Anyway, once you do use up your melee charge, that means it's probably time for some grounded play so you can stay alive and let your strength recharge your melee, and then also use things like your barricade to proc outreach or whatever else you please. Maybe you have a pugilist special weapon or something so you could get your melee energy back from that. That could be good. Anyway, once you're back up in the air feeling safe and comfortable and you have your dash charged, at this point you just need to make sure you're playing with teammates because these days DMT, particularly in the air, is really best for teamwork. If you're all alone trying to handle multiple targets, being in air with DMT is just not going to work. When I've been using this build near teammates and in the air, I'm just constantly out of the zone of bullshit, which is just a colloquial term which is basically meant to refer to the range of about 9 meters or so when you're close to somebody and melee rubber banding or weird shotgun stuff is happening, and it just feels really kind of unreliable. But when you're in the air with a scout rifle, you can definitely stay away from all that stuff. I really enjoy staying high above it or just like getting really close to someone, then sliding and backpedaling away and getting high up in the air, and it's pretty funny when they ape you and you're suddenly really far away zooming backwards in air with DMT headshotting them. Also, when you're up there and working with your teammates, I've found that I'm able to put damage on pretty much every single target, so you can totally get stuff like Wii Rans with this or just do very well KD wise, and if that's your jam, then this one's for you. It'll be tough to get your aim on point enough to hit crits in air, but it's a really fun challenge and I highly recommend it. Alright, I hope you try this build out because I think you'll really have fun with it and it might help give you a fresh way to enjoy PvP, and if you don't, that's cool too. Like all my PvP fun build videos, there's going to be some you like and some you don't, and inevitably there's going to be plenty of ways to iterate on them over time, so if you have any suggestions, feel free to drop them in the comments and help inspire other people. Thank you so much to my patrons for supporting this weird hobby I do and tempting me to quit my day job, and I invite you to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode of fun builds in Destiny PvP. Alright, thank you so much for watching and catch you in the next one.